Hi, everyone. Steve Adubato. Welcome to another edition of New Jersey's Next Governor Decision 2025. We kick off the program with Bill Spadea, Republican candidate for governor of the great state of New Jersey. Bill, good to see you.
Great to see you, Steve. Thanks for having me on.
You got 30 seconds on your background. People know you from 101.5, but you've been doing a whole range of things. 30 seconds on your background leading up to your candidacy.
Yeah, I've been married. I'll be married 30 years this November. I've got two great kids, and I was in the Marine Corps. Graduated from Boston University. I started a filmmaking company. We actually have sold movies to Lifetime, so just kind of a pretty cool side. And I spent a long career as a business leader in real estate, working for my good friend Jim Weichert, turning departments around, managing budgets, managing people, and helping the company achieve success.
Good stuff. Hey, Bill, let's prioritize the issues.
Sure.
Affordability in the state of New Jersey. If governor, what is the most significant action you would take out of the box to make New Jersey more affordable?
First thing we've got to do is we have to change how we fund our schools. We are throwing money down this rat hole where we're not getting any return on the investment. $33 billion are collected in property taxes. We've got the highest property taxes in the country, average tax bills nearing $10,000 per household, and 69 cents on the dollar goes to fund our schools. And I look at that and say, well, it's broken. How do you fix it? First thing you got to do is we have to encourage an opportunity for school choice, specifically charter schools. You look at the Newark school system, $1.1 billion goes into Newark. 9 out of 10 kids in Newark can't do grade level math. So the kids can't read, they can't write. We're spending our time on pronouns instead of practical knowledge for these kids. But if you look at Newark as an example, 4,000 kids want to be in a charter school. That has been blocked. They have not brought in the investment for that. That would be a day one priority, because once you shrink the size of those classrooms and reduce the burden on the public schools, you can start to reduce the amount of money you need from real estate taxes. Two, we've got to restructure our pensions. They did it successfully, and I'm talking about teacher pensions with the NJEA. They did it successfully in Wisconsin, in 2010, took a $3.6 billion deficit, turned it into a $900 million surplus. It's called Act 10. We need it in New Jersey.
So it's interesting. You mentioned choice, Bill. I want to ask you about this because the candidate you support for president, as we're doing this program, this will be seen later. This is about 2025 and it's policy oriented. But former President Trump has said that the Supreme Court, as currently constituted, to change with the Dobbs decision, pushing abortion back to the states. That's what he says most Americans want. Whether he gets elected or not, that's not the issue. Again, this will be seen later. Bill, let me ask you, if governor, what would you attempt to do to change, if at all, New Jersey's current statute, which protects a woman's right to choose?
Well, as you know, Steve, that is going to be up to the legislature. The hypotheticals are always asked, would you sign this? Would you sign that?
As governor, I think it's what would you lead? If you were governor, I'm sorry for interrupting, Bill, would you say, you know what, I would like to ban, and if the legislature went along, that's what I'd want, but I would like to lead as governor to ban abortion in the state?
Now, first of all, nobody is going to take seriously any broad ban on abortion. However, when you look at the numbers, most reasonable people do not agree with abortion up to birth. I think the challenge in our country, and the challenge of literally in every state, red state, blue state, is that we tend to govern on the fringes. We tend to talk about the radicals on one side or the other. The reality is, when you ask most Americans, do they think that we should have a late-term abortion up to birth, 81% of Americans say, no way. That's all. In New Jersey, it's almost 7 out of 10 voters. So here's how I look at it. I think that we need to stop looking at the, one black or white issue, ban or not ban. The Supreme Court smartly got rid of Roe v. Wade, put it back to the states. And now in New Jersey, people have their choice. So number one, I don't see any foreseeable change in the future of taking away a woman's right to choose. Number two, I think reasonable people can come together and say, you know what? Maybe we ought to ban this barbaric practice of late-term abortions. And that's a bill.
If late-term, one second, Bill, I'm sorry for interrupting again, but I'm going to be clear. If late-term abortions are due to the health of the mother, the life of the mother, you're okay with that, right?
Well, I agree with President Trump. And this goes back. I mean, honestly, Steve, this goes back to the Republican platform all the way into the '80s when you talk about life of the mother, rape, and incest. So I have no issue with that. But that's not what we're talking about. As a matter of fact, you ask any of the research out there and you read any of these papers, some 97 to 99% of abortions are not due to those circumstances. So most of the abortions in the late term, you're not talking about that. And again, this is not an issue that any candidate is going to lead on. And let me tell you why. It is not on the forefront of any New Jersey voter's mind. We were talking a second ago about affordability. People want to know that they can pay the bills, raise their kids, start their business, get to work in a free and safe environment. Has nothing to do with abortion policy.
Bill, I'll get off this in a second, but you don't think women disproportionately, men as well, but more women are concerned about reproductive rights? You don't believe that's an issue that matters to most women, or even a significant number of them?
No, it's an issue that the media and the radical Democrats want to lead with. The reason that the Democrats consistently talk about abortion is they have nowhere to go when it comes to crime, public safety, infrastructure investment, quality of education, and affordability. The Democrats have caused a major spike in the cost of living across the country, and in particular in New Jersey. They have, by their policy and by their ignorance and by their actions, and in many cases inaction, caused our streets to be less safe. So of course they want to talk about abortion because it's not an issue in New Jersey, but they make it an issue. And quite honestly, Steve, the media is complicit. The media does not want to talk about the real issues. Again, energy infrastructure, transportation infrastructure, highest in the country property taxes, highest corporate business taxes. We've got 7 out of 10 people leaving the state of New Jersey when it comes to that United Van Line survey. 5 years running. We have the highest outmigration of any state in the country, $3 to $4 billion a year leaving our state. So, of course, naturally, the Democrats have been in charge since 2001. They'd rather talk about abortion. I want to talk about affordability.
Well, I appreciate that, Bill, but let me ask you this. We do a series called Democracy in Danger, and I believe you believe our democracy, our representative democracy, our republic is in danger. You don't have to have the same point of view as that I do or anyone else, but we're in trouble. Question. In terms of the peaceful transition of power and the trust in elections, this isn't a major issue. You can be concerned about property taxes and still be concerned about democracy. Question. Do you believe that in the 2020 election, Joe Biden legitimately won that election and Donald Trump lost, and that there should have been a more peaceful transfer of power? And if it was the other way around, the same thing should have happened for Donald Trump?
Well, first of all, there was a peaceful transfer of power. I mean, President Trump.
January 6th was a peaceful transfer of power.
Look, Steve, you know as well as I do that did not even mark a dent in the actual transfer of power. There was no interruption in the government.
But there was an effort.
1 million people on the Capitol, on the mall, and you have a few that got into the Capitol. And look, we've all seen the videos of, for some reason, the Capitol Police opening the door. And I don't know what the story is behind that, but let me get to your original question.
Sure.
A lot of people ask, was the election stolen? I will say this to you. Joe Biden is the president of the United States. There's no discussion about whether he is or isn't. He is. But there is a legitimate question that should have been raised and is being raised now, that most Americans don't feel like their vote counts. I mean, you had like 7 out of 10 Republicans saying the election was stolen. You had a fair number of Democrats worried about the election. And why? Let's just talk about the optics. Look what happened in Philadelphia when they papered over the windows, when they expelled poll watchers out, when reams of paper were showing up at 3 o'clock in the morning. Look, we can solve the election integrity issue with voter identification. We have to look forward, not backward. You can't undo anything. I don't know how much fraud was there, but is there any American that doesn't believe there's some fraud in every election? Of course there is. So I'd like to see the Democrats in a bipartisan way join me in this conversation where I believe all 21 county clerks, if we got them together and said, look, let's make sure we safeguard the integrity of the legitimate legal votes out there. We need to have voter ID. We need to absolutely make sure that we understand the chain of custody of those mail-in ballots. We should be in the business of making people feel safe and secure that their vote counts.
But the other issue that you've been outspoken on, and someone says, well, some might say, well, that's a federal issue. It's not a state issue. This is immigration.
Sure.
The immigration crisis is real. Democrat, Republican, it's real. If you were elected governor, what, if anything, could and would you do to deal with the migrant crisis, even though it's federal legislation and law that is the primary factor here? Please, Bill.
Several things that I would do on day one. Number one, we'll begin enforcing federal detainer orders. There are thousands of criminal aliens that are being accused of some heinous, heinous crimes. New Jersey does not enforce those orders. That would be a day one issue. That's the first thing. The second thing is we have to end, and I would end on day one by executive order, the 2018 executive order that made us a sanctuary state. That's out the window. The third thing is the 2019 Immigrant Trust Directive. That has handcuffed law enforcement and made things very, very difficult and blurred the lines. That will go away on day one as well. But beyond that, I believe we have an emergency in New Jersey. And part of it is caused by the fact
immigration emergency, Bill?
Immigration, absolutely. There is an estimate. You look at the report that my friend Paul Knitra did when he got back from the border with a lot of smart people. Nearly 900,000 people are in New Jersey illegally. Now, if you look at that, even if that number were
where's that number come from, Bill?
What's that?
Where's that number come from?
From Paul Knitra's report. Paul Knitra, member of the Assembly, did a comprehensive report on illegal immigration, estimated between 820 to 850,000 illegals here in New Jersey. Right now, our budget is being overtaxed on this. We're providing housing, medical care, education, and legal representation. The state of New Jersey and the 9 million residents should not be bearing that burden. We're going to end bail reform. We're going to enforce federal detainer orders. We are going to reopen those 5 prisons that have closed in the past 5 months. And we're going to get control of law enforcement, end the sanctuary state, and return New Jersey to a state that protects legal citizens.
Bill Spadea, Republican candidate for governor in the great state. Let's hope we stay great. The great state of New Jersey. Thank you, Bill, for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Steve. Great to see you.
Sorry for interrupting, Bill. Right after this, the former Senate President, Steve Sweeney, will join us talking policy. Thank you, Bill. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
State of Affairs with Steve Adubato is a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating 30 years in public broadcasting. Funding has been provided by Hackensack Meridian Health, the Turrell Fund, a foundation serving children. Operating Engineers, Local 825. Eastern Atlantic States Regional Council of Carpenters. New Brunswick Development Corporation. IBEW Local 102. PSCNG. Rowan University. And by these public-spirited organizations, individuals, and associations committed to informing New Jersey citizens about the important issues facing the Garden State. Promotional support provided by NJ.com and by New Jersey Globe.
Life is full of changes. At Hackensack Meridian Medical Group, we're ready for them. If you have a cold or chronic illness, our 5-star doctors can treat any ailment. Whether you're starting recess or retirement, we're prepared with pediatric and adult specialists. And if you just moved here, we are in your neighborhood. You now have access to a health team 1,000 strong. So no matter what or when, we're ready.